G'day, doggies fans, all things Bulldogs, episode 11. Getting through them already. We're 3 rounds in, up to round 4. And it's 3 from 3 for the Bulldogs. Had the review the other day, so won't talk much about the Eels game, apart from comparisons and how we get better for the Sharks game. Hello to anyone who wants to come and join and say hello. We'll see. I'll wait for a few people to come and join it. But look, guys, it's a really good start to the season by the Bulldogs. Very, very happy with how we've started. Obviously, we're going to talk about a few things, how it's going in, into this week. Same team, exact same 23 named, except starting in the positions they're going to start in. Did we feel that was the best positions? There was a couple of areas I might have changed a little bit, but, that's just me. We'll also look at, like, this DCE thing's going to be stirred up. They're going to be talking about it all year, and until he actually says something, it's just going to be annoying, which is why I'm really pissed off that it's happened this early in the season, that it's been talked about. So probably just, say hello. And I don't know, I've lost my train of thought there. But look, we'll talk about DCE and then we don't have to talk about it anymore if we get a chance at some point. I'll let you know how the junior sides are going. Now, with the junior sides, there's been a bit of a, sort of tough start to the season, especially for Harold Matts. SG Ball are going okay. Need to get a couple of wins in order to be competing for those top spots. Very competitive amongst the juniors and getting more and more competitive every year. Jersey Flag struggling a little bit already, and New South Wales Cup also having its issues. But look, I'll explain where I think the club's at and as part of the journey and why that's the case as well. But look, we'll look at this preview of the Sharks versus Bulldogs to start off with. Very, very important game for us, I believe. Come say hello in the chat if you got a chance. That would be brilliant. But look, I'm a little bit worried, obviously, that it's going to be a tough game, very hard to win. Not expecting a win by any means. And obviously not having Kickow and Burton there, that'd be like taking out Nakora and what's his face, bloody Nico Hines out of their side. It would make their job a lot more difficult, and our job's a lot more difficult, obviously, because of that. But yes, there's already been a couple of podcasts go out tonight already, which is good. So lots of Bulldogs content out there for everybody, and this can be watched, obviously, once it goes there, and you can watch it the next day or whenever you want. G'day, Lakeside. How you going? I think it'll be a lot closer than people think too, and I'm hoping that to be the case. So we'll have the team lists up. I'll get them up in a moment once we get a few more viewers on. I sort of did this a little bit rushed tonight. But yeah, I think there's things. I do believe we will throw a lot more at the Sharks than we threw at Parramatta. And that's not putting down Parramatta. That's not. But to me, it looked like they were just prepared to grind their way to a victory, to hold possession, not really play any footy out of our own end. There wasn't much sort of digging into the line on that left-hand side. It was a real sort of just workmanlike performance. It's like they were running training runs in that second half. Toby said that was one of the most difficult games he'd ever played of 40 minutes. And the amount of times he kicked the football from deep in his own half, and he was getting a fair purchase on it. He just can't generate that same height and hang time that Burton can, and that's the difference in that extra 3 or 4 seconds in the air, which is what Burton gets, and then Mitchell Moses is very much similar. It just enables them to get further up the field and sort of reduce what the other sides where they're getting back to and where they kick from. And it was just they were just prepared to keep doing what they were doing and wait for Parramatta to make a mistake and frustrate them by continually turning up in defence, which is what we did. So we'll get these we'll get this screen happening. Yeah, very good point, Lakeside. His defence was brilliant on the amount of grass chopping tackles he did, especially one-on-one. I was very and this is what people kept talking about. They go on like we would have won if Toby started the season last year, and they still go on about it. I see it on forums and stuff. It's like, and someone mentioned, Drew Hutchison might be a good option to bring in. And I'm like, well, we did win last week for a start, so they're not going to make changes. But they think that Toby was ready at the start of last year, and he wasn't. And now he's defensively confident himself. He believes he can tackle these players. He believes he can meet them and do it one-on-one and defend our line like everyone else. He expects everyone else around him to do their job, and he knows he's going to do his job. And that's where, a number 7 starts to really make their, show their worth, is in the defensive side of things. And once he gets that down pat, I only felt he made one error in the game, and that was a really poor kick after the Satili Tupanua and Bailey Hayward break late in the game. I thought, and then not really positioning himself for a field goal. But that's just my opinion. G'day, Pete. Toby was very good, but you're spot on with Berto's kicks. Yeah, so Toby can kick the distance, no problem. He just doesn't get the hang time, as I was saying. So, yeah, welcome everyone who's joined. It's a bit late today. Ciro being nice and patient with Toby. And so he should be. So he should be, Lakeside. G'day, D. I thought Bailey replacing Burton was pretty hectic. Yeah, Bailey was pretty hectic, eh? Look, if we're going to win, it annoyed me a little bit, all the praise that they gave Bailey Hayward. There was some missed tackles there, which was sort of put us under pressure. There was some things that I want to see him do. It was great seeing him make that break late in the game, though. And he did do some wonderful defence. The try Cherry scored, the way he dug in for that was really solid. That was a pin perfect pass for Cherry, but the defence was horrible at the same time. And as I said in the review, just watching us, it was like watching the Bulldogs with having, 4 players out on the edge and 2 players running at them, and they slide over the line, That's just where the 2 clubs are at the moment. Yeah, so look, I thought Bailey Hayward needs to run the football earlier in matches. He was turning it inside, and Burton does that as well, and so does Sexton. There's lots of plays where they turn it inside for Viliami kick out. They did that for Josh Curran, and that was sort of trying to keep their structure in place and set up their plays. But if they don't have the situation where you've got your left edge running that line, where the ball player can go short or go out the back, and generate speed of the play the ball from that, or even generate more, to help put them in 2 minds and strip defenders off Cherry, which would makes it easier for Montoya. You look at those tries that Montoya scored in the first 2 rounds, and also you look at the other side that we've had the same moves worked, the same sort of plays have worked in all games. Tries on the left and tries on the right. Montoya's first 2 tries of the season, identical plays almost. Really good Viliami kick-out pass as the last pass. Cherry running the decoy, but like they've just practiced that a lot, obviously, and it's really worked well for them. And then the right edge plays for Wilson have been the same as well. And a couple of slight differences, but yeah, they've pretty much been the same plays. And I think that, last week it was obvious the play was a little bit different where Cherry went and scored because the opposition weren't as scared. Like they were more able to go, well, it's not Viliami kick-out, it's Josh Curran. So they weren't as worried about getting 3 people into the tackle. Not to say that Josh can't break a tackle or anything, and he's played a lot of edge, but they just weren't worried about it as much, which meant that they still had numbers on Bailey if he did decide to run. So I think they just have to go through the motions a bit, run a little bit if they get the opportunity in that part of the field. And it's easier said than done, by the way. But there needs to be a bit more variation and shape on that left edge because we're used to it. I watched that Penrith side. Nathan Cleary the other day went off and had Jack Cole and a bunch of these young kids who they've all played so many reps together over the years as juniors, and coming through the same system. But they just continually run shape 2 or 3 times every set. Now, another thing that probably we need to be able to do is try to make sure when we get into field position that we do a few more contested possession bombs. A mate of mine pointed that out. He's been on here before, Pete, and that some teams were just continually putting up kicks where there's a competition for the ball, and we seem to be very content for 75, 80% of our kicks where we allow the opposition defender to catch it and we basically just smash him afterwards. And the way I look at it, it's all about energy. You all go up for a contested possession. Someone lands on the ball. Like no one actually gets drilled but when they're catching the ball and getting hammered as they're catching it, it is diminishing their ability in attack a little bit. And that's why I think we do it. I think Serrato looks at energy over a whole game and over a whole season. And it's not just about, putting all the soldiers where they got to be to win them every single battle that they go in. That's obviously what they want to do, but it's all about winning the war and the longevity of it and getting people prepared for down the track and knowing that, they're only at 60 or 70% here, but they have to do these things in games, even though they might come up short or it might look really clunky and it might not work. It might look pretty bloody simple, but they know they have to do it in these situations because if they don't, they're not going to be able to perfect it properly. And while it's frustrating and clunky for us as fans at different times, like the amount of fans who watched that game, I was actually quite happy that a lot of fans saw that game for what it was, and we're just happy with the 2 points. But there's so many fans and even mates of mine who watched that game and felt like we'd lost, right? Because they didn't see us dominate. They didn't feel we dominated the game. They felt that probably we were outplayed in the ruck. They felt like it was almost a loss everywhere but on the scoreboard. And it's really worried them about this game against the Sharks, which is what we want to talk about. G'day, Elaine. Welcome. Hope CJ's well and feeling better. Abraha, g'day. Hopefully the Dogs keep it a close game, and even if they lose, that's what we want to see. We just want to see that effort. Pete says, hi, Elaine. Some great performances on Sunday, but for me, I have to put Cherry on top. Yeah, well, Pete had Cherry as his man of the match, and he was my man of the match slightly ahead of Harry Hayes. Really worked his ass off, and I've felt he's been good every game. He's gone searching for work. He's gone, he's run sideways at times. He's tried to link up. And he's a good player, Bronson Cherry. Like, he's a talent. We all knew that. And I still and just excited. If he can stay injury free, I'm excited to see what he can do over the next 2 or 3 years. He's probably going to. He's one of them players that, unless he's loyal to the Dogs and willing to take unders, he's going to price himself out of our sort of salary cap system, I'm afraid. But hopefully that's not the case. But I do get ahead of myself quite often. We only need to go 4-1 until Burton kicks and Carrazza's back. Yeah, well, the Knights game will be no easy game. I felt they struggled without Leo Thompson there, just an important player in their cog. And that's another thing too. Like, you go and watch these games, and I always watch games, especially if we've got a player coming. I really focus on them to see what they're going to bring to us and try and fantasize about it, imagining what they're going to do. You know what I mean? But I think that he's doing a lot of stuff that's not just taking the hit up and playing the ball, not just, launching in and making a tackle. There's so much more to these players than what we give them stats for, or what we see them as being important to teams for, which is why we need to, if you don't like a player, rather than watching them and all their mistakes, watch all their other stuff that they do and really focus on it. If you can, if the TV can take you there, if you had a game, just how they communicate with people around them, how often they're involved, how many support plays are they running, how quick are their line speed, who's the ones that are chasing hard down the field off every kick, who's leading the line always. Stephen Crichton's had the worst stats of all the back five statistically all year so far, and in many games last year. But there's so many other stats that he leads as the leader. First one down there to put pressure on. Kickout's always doing that on the left. Crichton's always there on the right. Him and Presto always leading it. Always there to chase the ball if there's an opportunity to score. Always the one contesting for the bombs when we put one up. We'd love to sit there and go, well, Zach Lomax does 30 hit-ups and contests about, 12 or 13 kicks and bombs every game, plus he's kicking conversions and doing whatever else. But Critter's not that type of player. He doesn't need to work like that. We spread that work out. And I think that one player doing that much work can sometimes be derogatory to a team because, but anyway, I'm not going to get into it. So just talk about everyone. Knights do not have a good attack similar to us at the moment. I don't think our attack's that bad. I would suggest when you score 82 points in 3 games at an average of 27 points a game, your attack's not too bad. The Sharks have scored the same amount of points, or they've scored 1 point more and conceded the same amount as us. Now, sure, they played in Las Vegas. They played the Panthers, who haven't won a game since. They smashed the Cowboys up in North Queensland. And who else did they beat? They beat South Sydney. So they haven't beat that much as well, really, to be honest, to be frank. But I still rate them as, I think they're primed for a big performance, and they've got a pretty good side on the pack to be on the park to be able to do it. Pete says we haven't seen the best, but going back to that, mate, they were very clunky last week against the Titans. They were doing they were passing a lot of footballs, and they were trying hard. They were trying to make stuff happen. I think that was their problem. Instead of just running moves and running shapes and stripping teams of numbers and getting it done, they were trying to play like they were, sort of a little bit like the Titans. And I think I heard somebody say that as well, which is why I was trying not to say it. But I agree with them. They were they just were playing like they could score a try from anywhere on the field, sort of thing. And then they were then it was falling apart on making mistakes, giving away possession, and the Titans were there to play. Pete says we haven't seen the best of Bronson yet. In the absence of kicks, I couldn't fault him. Hence, yeah, mate. And that's the thing. People underestimate how good it was for Bronson Cherry to have the Fox outside him last year and to have Kick-Out Burton on that edge with him. Like, it enabled him to pull some pants down of teams because they were more worried about the other people than him, right? And now they're going to worry about Bronson. So, and I think he knows that, and I think he's a bit faster this year. He seems a bit quicker. Takes a while to get that in-game speed with the ball in hand, run him back. You know, I'm an expert in this sort of stuff. You just got to take one look at me, and you'll know. But having all those great running threats around you means that more than not, you got a player that's in two minds of whether you're going to run or pass. And if their feet or hands or positioning slightly the wrong way, if they've turned slightly the wrong way, and that's what this game's turned into, you know. It's that cutthroat. Before, blokes just used to run up in a line and hope for the fucking best. Like, seriously. My coach in under seven, in year 7, you know, he coached Steve Mortimer, right? And he told us all about it. But it's all just about run, tackle, and, you know, and try your best. And there were some good coaches that coach representative sides, and they weren't that in depth. Now it's become a situation that these players can have such great peripheral vision. Most of them are like, they're all footballers, not meatheads when it comes to the game. And they can go, oh, this guy, I can take him on. He has been he's slightly off in where he should be. The way that his angle is in the defense, I'm going to run it. You know, and sometimes they adjust and are able to stop the person, and it's all right. But like, these players become so instinctive and rehearsed in what they do that they can just see it all in front of them. It's amazing. And it's amazing when you hear him talk about it. Not contesting kicks in the same reason we shelved the Burton bomb. It's about having more control about where the opposition start their sets and on the back foot. Yeah, I agree, Dave, and that's exactly what I said. And it's not easy to put when you got field position like we had in round 1. So in round 1, we were just doing it so easy out of our end, and Toby didn't kick the ball at all. Berto just put up casual kicks, like he had all the time. Just put them in the left-hand corner, and Montoya and Kick-Out just smashed Fine all day. Just hammered him. Like, they didn't care. And then they contested a couple, which made him a little bit frightful. And he dropped a couple, and we got repeats off it, and we scored. Penrith have generally had small wingers for the last 5 years. So contesting football, while they did sometimes and were successful, they going up against your Daniel Tupus and all these other big bloody tall wingers is difficult. So it's better to just put it where you want and to belt the person and have them coming off their own line and sort of having them do what Canterbury did the other day. What those Bulldogs did to hold their fucking nerve. Like, this is what people piss me off when they diminish that performance. They held their nerve for almost a full half of football. They didn't panic the fact they couldn't make fuck all territory. And they just kept going through the process. And it was like a practice run. Seriously, it's like, we're just going to defend our line for the next 40 minutes, like it was by design. Parramatta obviously played their fucking part in it. Sorry for all the swearing, but I get passionate about this because they made me proud the way they just turned up. Para have got they had some speed out there, you know. They had some players. Junior Paulo's a fucking good player. Sean Lane led him to obviously that first miss, I would have hooked him when he didn't even attempt to fall over when I think Marnie got in his way. When we scored our first try, like that first try was diabolical for Parramatta fans. But yeah, look, the courage they showed not to try and force the issue and just back their defence. I think Para would have beat quite a few teams on the weekend if they had that scenario and that field position. Teams would have cracked. They would have thrown passes. I think if West Tigers would have cracked, or they would have played some footy and got around them and scored a length of the field try maybe. But I think a lot of teams would have cracked under that pressure, and we didn't. We kept fucking playing. The closest we come to cracking was Jamin Salmon running an escort, which was barely an escort, in my opinion. But fair enough. Stephen Crichton will play a lot better when Carraz comes back. Carraz is similar to To'o in the run meters. Yeah, well, so is Wilson and Montoya have been carving up the run meters. They've been running, they haven't been hitting 200, but they've been sharing it really well. Like it's been like 170, 180 each average, which I can look at for you. So they've done a good job in that regard. And obviously their meters were way up because we couldn't get out of our own end last week. So they were taking all the hit-ups. But Carraz is a huge loss for us. There's no doubt about it. But we saw what Stephen Crichton and Blake Wilson have done to sides with Connor Tracy chiming in. We saw that quite a few times last year. But Carraz is definitely, I'm missing seeing him play, and I cannot wait till he comes back fully fit. Our attack is good. We should pump the Knights. Yeah, well, I still worry about Kalen Ponga, and Jack Cogger can, straighten up the attack if he wants to. He's pretty good at it, and he's got a good little short ball on him and a good little out the back, and he engages the line. Like, there's no reason Jack Cogger shouldn't be considered as their future. Instead, they're going to pay $1.3 million for a year for 10 years for Brown. It's a fucking ridiculous. He was all right on the weekend, but I don't see him ever being worth that. Knights not wearing any pants last week. We've beaten Knights before without Burton Crichton, so it's a possible win. 100% it's a possible win. My opinion is that I think they're going to be really smarting after two embarrassing losses to us last year. And I call them embarrassing because they couldn't score a point. We had games there. It was Hutchison and Toby, no Burton, no Crichton. And games were quite tense where the Knights had lots of opportunities and we just kept holding them out. So I think a game like Para, where we get that confidence in our defence again, although I was still worried about that right-hand edge, really sets us up to be able to back ourselves that way and then hopefully throw a bit of caution to the wind a little bit in a couple of plays, just actually play a bit of football and ambush this Shark side, because that's what I'm hoping to see. I'm hoping to see a full-scale ambush because we're about 4-1. No one gives us a chance. And every time that happened last year, we smashed sides. Roosters, I think, were 6 or 7-1. The Broncos were about 5-1. And we're missing players as well. Elaine says, hi, Pete. Lucky Mike sent me a reminder. I would have forgotten the episode. I'm not very clued on about footy, but I'm learning from you guys. Oh, thank you. Well, you can learn a lot from your son as well. Future champion. I think we can get Sharks with our defence. Wet weather will help. Yeah, is it supposed to be wet again, is it? JD, welcome back. And welcome back to everyone who keeps coming back every week. I need to thank you guys. I don't think we can just rely on our defence this week. I'm worried. I'm looking forward to seeing how we go. I think they won without playing well. That's what I want to see. Wow. Brad Castledine, we need to get to Trend. Oh, okay. Trindle. We need to put heaps of pressure on Trindle. I think we can win. Well, Braden Trindle is a player I would have targeted to build a side around. I really rate him. He's got a really good kicking game. He converts, and he's a good runner of the ball, and he's strong, tackles well, gets his body in behind, and when he keeps himself fit, he's a bloody good player. I think we really do. We have to put pressure on all their players. But what's I've noticed about the Sharks has been it's been their outside men. Mulatalo, Ronaldo has been one of their best, I must say. And Britton Nakor and those sort of players that are just Teague Wilton on the other side. They make a line break every game or two. Every game they both make a line break. It seems. So the way they utilise their edges is great. They've got a season for every player in their side has been there 4 or 5 years, playing first grade together. It really helps. And you add Adam Fanua-Blake to that, and the same spine, the same forward pack, the same outside backs. Like no one's really different. Sam Stone Street, who's been in their system for years trying to get a crack, right? And he can score a try like as good as Wilson can. Like across the park, they match us or are better than us in every position on paper. Statistically, I know a lot of fans don't like hearing that. But I'll tell you now, if you sold our top 30, I still think we'd struggle. If we sold our top 30 to any other club in the competition, let's say it was a good one like Penrith or Melbourne, if they're going to buy our top 30, there'd still be change left over from the salary cap, a lot of it. I think it's a lot better than it was. Gus valued us at about 5 or 6 million 2 years ago. I think you'd value us at 9 to 10, maybe $1 million under the cap now. I think we're getting close to having a really competitive roster. And not to say we can't win a comp or I'm not going to say they can't do anything. But on paper, with statistically what players do and the amount of games and experience they've got together, this Shark side is right up in the top couple as far as games played together through both seniors and juniors. And, and experience. They are a shit hot side. And the Dogs beat them last year, right? We're on top of them in round 2 last year for the first half. Should have been 18-0 ahead. At least 12-0 ahead. We don't have Burton. We don't have kick out. But we have belief. And everything builds from defence. I'm sorry, but the team that's won the last 4 years have defended their way. They lost a game to the Storm last year, I think 8-0. But we're trying to the last second to win the game, to get into it. They barely, their attack looked clunky for weeks. They go on and win the comp and win most of their matches. Drop a few along the way. Doesn't seem to faze them. It's all built off defence. And that's what we built off last year, and that's what we're going to keep building off. That's the system. The fact that we scored a lot of points against what I consider to be bottom 8 sides at the moment. Or you could say bottom 10. In the first 2 games, Eels, I think, are bottom 2, bottom 3 at the moment, especially with no Moses there. We haven't had a really massive test as far as a top contender for the competition. And the Sharks are all of that. So a lot of people are scared, and we can't rely on defence alone, as JD said. But defense is what puts us in the position to win games. And we then have to make the right decisions and take our opportunities. And when you've lost the fox off your edge, when you don't have Burton there anymore, and you don't have Kickout there because they're injured, no Carraz on the other side, we've done all right. We've won 3 from 3. We've done all right. It's been a good start to the season. We've banked points that we may not have been able to bank in previous years or last year even. And that's going to set us up. 100%. Good point, Gratitude. Looks like a wet track coming up, 10 to 70 millimetre forecast. Going to be another slog and a close one, my prediction. They also will be missing a couple of big guns, the latest. Yeah, they're missing somebody. Who are they missing? Talakai was one that they might be missing. Oh, and Braden Hamlin ULA, who I think wasn't at 100% anyway. See, but Talakai's always caused us trouble, especially off the bench. I think he's even harder to bloody deal with, to be honest, coming in at an energy out wide. Abraha says, against the Sharks, both Bailey and Sexton should give some kicking duties to Marnie. All three should constantly aim for 40-20s because we're going to struggle making meet against Sharks' defensive pack. Marnie, for us to have Marnie kick from dummy half, we need to be able to play the ball quickly. And Para stopped us from doing that. Whether it was legal or not is another kettle of fish. Yes, I think they need to have both halfbacks kicking the football, 100%, and Marnie to do that. But when you don't have field position and when you're not in areas of the field to kick how you want to kick, and you also got to remember Bailey's a right footer on the left-hand edge, right? So it's not the left footer kicking from the left, which changes things up a lot. People got to understand that as well, right? So we've already showed that we can play some different game plans with different players and come up with the W. We should take confidence from that. But I do agree, 100%, we're going to need more variation. 40-20s, 40-20s are 40-20s. For me, it's more about if they're going to kick early on the fourth or something for that, it's about turning those big boppers around and having them to have to run back and our team knowing that that's going to be the case. But you turn those Sharks around, they can be deadly coming out of yardage with space. You can't fear it. But if we're doing that stuff and the team doesn't know about it, we've got to have that straight line. We've got to make our tackles because they've scored some beautiful tries this year with coming out of their own end. They're a dangerous side all over the park in many different situations. They can offload in the line. They're a good bloody side. And I fucking hate them. And I hate Buzz Rothfield. And he can say as much positive shit about the Bulldogs as he wants. It doesn't change the fact that he hates us and he wants us to fail. Because they only build you up when you're winning in the hope they can tear you down again. But we all know that. G'day, Tony the Fifth. Calm down, boys. Hines will have the yips. Can't, doggies. Maybe. Nico generally plays well against the Bulldogs. He tends to go... Look, I'll put it this way. When Nico's playing a side that he thinks he's got their measure, he plays well on confidence, is all I'm going to say. If he's worried about us, he knows we've come a long way, Nico, from what he saw when he arrived at the Sharks to where we are now. He might get the yips, and I hope he does. But I'm not counting on it. He plays well against us normally. G'day, Scotty. Going to be another tough one this week. We're missing a few. They're missing a few big boppers. What do you think Dogs go for DCE? I think he's missing link. We could use Burton. DCE would be good with Leo Thompson coming in next year. Well, JD, I will get to that after we finish the preview. Good question. And I did put it in. DCE to Dogs, question mark. No, DCE can't even get his own Manly to grand final. I do not think he's a good option. Many will say no. Many will say yes for the same reasons you did, JD. I think you'll have 60% or 70% of people will just support the club in whatever they do, which is better than what it was a few years ago. And there'll be plenty who will be, expecting that it's cost us something or cost us a player or whatever. And it won't be worth the investment. G'day, Michael. Welcome. Don't need to be sorry, my friend. Reckon Curran's got a career in officiating after footy. Maybe. Eshkio, Dogs should win this game. Dogs have to go through the middle. Well, they got to go somewhere. It might as well be through the middle. I have a feeling we might go after Talon De Silva, Appy's understudy. Interesting. Well, they're not going to be able to keep everyone. But I will say we've just bought about 3 young hookers to the club. Oscar Bryant, there's another fella as well that's come through. I think he was from the Titans. Yeah, there's a couple they've already bought to the club. So I don't think they'll be looking to purchase another hooker for the short term. I think they're going to develop one. And we've got Otakolo come in from the Warriors as well, who's pretty tough, fiery defender. And there's, and a lot out of this halves academy, their future is going to be as hookers. When they can't get a go as a halfback. But the great thing about a halves academy is that a lot of the halfbacks competing, there's a lot of roles for them. There's only still a handful of trusted halves in the game. So these youngsters have all got big opportunities to have a crack somewhere. But we're developing lots of halves, bringing halves to our club and training them up. And there'll be some that have sort of said you should be a hooker or start, you're big enough to make tackles in the middle and fill that sort of role. And that's where your career will be best served. Some will agree with that and do it. Others will say, nah, fuck you, I'm going to somewhere else as a halfback. And some won't go anywhere. But we'll see what happens. G'day, Teddy. Evening, legends. Hope you're doing well. Just a quick word. I think we'll just beat the Sharks by a point. Well, I like your quick word, Teddy, and I hope you're right because it gets the bloody... Oh, I missed Abrahaz there. Hopefully, Tony Rudolph will be our 14th man again. Well, he's on that extended bench, so he might come in, actually. He might come in. DCE for Sexton. Yeah, look, I'm going to talk about it soon. And as soon as it was said, I've thought about it. I'll talk about it soon. I'll talk about it in one go. Yo, Mick, he's a stat. The only other time in history the Bulldogs have been tied with Storm for the first in round 3 with the Eels in last. The Bulldogs made the grand final. And that would have been in 2012. Last year proved the stats wrong. Don't take them seriously. Yeah, we did. We proved stats wrong all the time. But we proved certain stats wrong. We'd sit there and made the most missed tackles but had the best defense. We had the worst tackle efficiency, made the most ineffective tackles, but it conceded the least amount of points until round 25. We made the fewest post-contact meters and conceded the most post-contact meters, but also had conceded the less meters between the fullback catching the football and the halfback kicking a football. for the entire continent. So many conflicting stats, which shows to me there's a game plan there. There's a style, and they know what they're doing. They know they're going to miss tackles. They know that they're going to, once they catch a player, they're going to concede some post-contact. It's all about where they catch them, where they stop them, how long it takes to stop them, how long it takes them to get up and play the ball, where they're playing the ball. So many defensive things which were contradictory to the stats that we see. But when I say a team statistically, I'm talking about experience. I'm talking about connection, belief, all that sort of stuff. And I just rate a lot of those Sharks players, always have. I think they've got a dynamic. I can't believe how, honestly, I think they're over the cap, to be honest. I think they might be cheating the cap with the amount of good forwards they've got. And they just keep keeping the ones, Royce Hunt, they let him go. He was on about 400 or 500 on their books. But they've kept everyone else, signed everyone else up, including Hazelton, who was on nothing and now on a lot more. How do they keep doing it? Storm was second and we were first. By round 3. Because we've had an easy first 3 rounds. None of them have been easy though, mate. Yes, we've had a great start to the Titans match. Yes, we looked way better than the Dragons. And the Dragons haven't won a game yet. Two losses and a bye. They should have they were way better than the Rabbits. I can't believe they lost that match, to be honest. They should have won that match. The Titans weren't an easy team to beat. And in fact, beat us for the last 60 minutes. There's no easy wins. There's no easy games. There's no easy teams. However, I do agree that the Sharks are better than those 3 sides. And the Sharks are a top 3 contender this year. And many are tipping to win the minor premiership with the draw they've got. Wills for Feeder. G'day, Wills. How you going, mate? You're talking about game stats or my theories. There you go. Well, let's look at the side. Let's get the side up there. And then we'll talk about some DCE and some other stuff like that. All right. So it's the same side. Kennedy lines up against Tracy. They got Stone Street, Jesse Ramian, Kale Iro, who's a very good player. Ronaldo Mulitalo. Our back 5, Tracy Wilson, Cherry, Crichton, and Montoya. It's been the same back 5 for the now 3 games for the 4th game in a row. That sets us up well. Every game we play together is like gold, right? Bailey Hayward in his 2nd game as a number 6, getting lots of raps. Trindle and Hines versus Hayward and Sexton. This kid, Bailey Hayward, we've got to have him running the footy. He's got to get crunched a few times. There has to be some variation there. Even if it's clunky and doesn't work, I think it's important. And I'm expecting it. I'm expecting to see variation on that edge this week. If not a little bit more, at least. Adam Fanua-Blake, very hard to stop. Great footwork. There'll be moments he's going to look like he's going to score close to the line. Hopefully it doesn't come into fruition. Max King, who, doing some of those tough runs last week, like I felt he had another really strong game and haven't really talked about him much. Yeah, he wasn't making 175 meters, but we didn't have the field position for that to happen. But he played 48 minutes in the middle and made a shitload of tackles and did a phenomenal job. Reed Marnie tackled his ass off again, worked tirelessly, threw some really good balls off the deck. And, the width and accuracy of those passes are so important to our halves. Oregon Kafusi, very good player, getting his another season prop. Who starts, throws a lot of offloads. Britton Nakor and Teague Wilton, two of the best line runners in the game versus Josh Curran and Jacob Preston. And, that's going to be a great battle. I want to see Josh cut through more this week. And what I'd love to see more of his speed, and because he can motor Josh Curran. That's what people say, he jogs into stuff, but it's all, he runs a certain way to do, he jigs into it. But I want to see him hitting a line hard and making these guys go, what the hell was that? And Cameron McInnes, with his teeth in, he's a little tireless worker and a very good player. And Jamin Salmon's been doing a good job for us this year. And while we win, people shut up about him. But I'm sure if we have a loss on the weekend, they'll be calling for his head, which is annoying. Daniel Atkinson, off to the Dragons next year. Good young player. But he's Talakai's name, but apparently was injured. Hazelton and this fella, Tuku Hautapua. Get a load of this bloody bloke. 196 centimetres tall, 114 kgs. He's an absolute bloody beast, this bloke. But he's got nothing on our little Curtis Morin. They got Jaden Beryl, who's played a lot, Maween Harodi, Hohipa Puru, Toby Rudolph, and Billy Burns. So a lot of those players are perennial reserve graders playing for Newtown, but except for Toby, but all very capable replacements. And the same bench for ours. I don't think Joey O'Neill will play New South Wales Cup this week. And I think we'll see maybe Jack Todd or Jonathan Sewer as the 18th man this week. I'm not sure, unless they've got someone that they're worried about with a bit of an injury or something, or is a bit sore or could have some doubts over, then they'll carry the player that's more likely to be needed based on any worries they have. So the Harry Hayes, I thought he was phenomenal last week, Harry. Let's have a look at some of the stats. Up to 102 kilos this year. So he put on a couple of kilos and he's up to 190 centimetres. This year he's averaging 118 metres. A bit of a winner. He's played 12 matches for 8 wins and 4 losses. He's just a winner, and winning breeds winning. Tackles at 91% efficiency, average of 79 metres. So he's punching above that. He's playing a few more minutes, though. So, look, 39, 41, 42. Is that a coincidence? I don't know. 1 minute more each game. And works his ass off. Missed no tackles last week, 35 made. I will say the Titans and Dragons ask a few more questions, though. I will say that. So, yeah, we'll believe in our boys. They can get the job done in front of 10 or 11,000 at Shark Park on a Saturday evening. What better way to start your Saturday than watch the Bulldogs Saturday night? I'm fired up for it. Now, I am going to say it. Satili Tupanua, I believe, because I think I can coach better than everyone in the world, obviously. But no, without knowing nothing, just as a fan, for me, Satili Tupanua is a way more effective edge player than Curran. He just runs really good lines. He cuts through. And I think if he was out there, there'd be a bit more worry. Now that can work in our favour if we do some stuff that the Sharks aren't ready for, rather than just turning it back on the inside to Josh Curran, who can jink his way around and get some second phase and get the ball to where it's got to go. And he's a bloody good footballer. But Tilly can really put that defence under sufferance a little bit. And then if we don't do something off that play, we can do something off the next a lot more often at speed. But at the same time, he's really been cutting hard in defence, running hard, running good lines. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Satili go out there on an edge at some point and wreak a little bit of havoc. Because I think from an attack point of view, he does ask a lot more questions. Sam says, I reckon Manly label DCE. Why would they let him leave? Great player. Bulldogs would be stupid not to sign him. Stupid's a strong word. Well, we'll talk about that soon, Sam. Bales can tackle. He could give Marnie a rest in D in the middle. Yeah, he can tackle all right. And that's another thing. But, without Burton and Kikau there, Marnie's not doing anything but playing for 80 minutes unless we're just getting, the games sort of in a way where he's had to make 50 tackles in 65 minutes and he's spent. They need to give him a break, which he's done before. But, yeah, he's an 80-minute player in our club. So that's just the way it is. Love Mozza. You got to love Mozza. I hope Jack Todd gets a run soon. His footwork would be a weapon. Yeah, and really good try on the weekend. He's fast as well. Like, he is a next Cameron Murray sort of prototype. But defensively, he's not there yet. He's not far off. Like, I hate saying this, but I feel a lot better to bring a young fella through when there's someone like Viliame Kikau in the team and having more stability. Like, I don't want to bring him in now when don't have Kikau and Burton there, if that makes sense, unless it's a forced need to have him there. I want him to come in when it's like, Harry, we're going to give Jack a run this week, or sorry, Kurt, we're giving Jack a run. Something more along those lines. Jamin, you've been doing well. Have a rest. Jack's going to have a run now. Whereas they can just give him that game, give him 15 minutes just to get the feel of it. Give him 20 minutes the next week, and then just see if he's up for it, if he's up to it. When they have to come in as a force change due to too many injuries and stuff, that's when we struggle. But when they can come in and it's just that, we need that next player to come in. We've got a lot of that sort of stability in our squad. That's when I want to see these kids get their run. And Underhill is going good. Michael, hopefully there'll be a good Dogs turnout on Saturday, like against Para. Yeah, it's hard to get there, and the Sharks crowd are fucking shit, is all I'll say. No offense. But really, there's dead set racism in the crowd. I know when people don't like talking about that, but there is racism against Bulldog supporters. But it's dead set bloody hostile sometimes. It's worse than Manly, I reckon. I think the Sharks fans, big pockets of them too, not just one or two people. Like, there'd be 20, 30 people there just being absolute grommets. And not in a fun way either. Like, really, I don't know. I've got an opinion on everything. Sorry, I've got a deep answer for everything. The answer should have just been, yeah, hopefully we get heaps of people out there. But look, I think there's going to be the Sharks got a lot of members that take a lot of the seats. It's hard to get a ticket. It's probably already sold out, to be honest. Evening, Timmy. Welcome. Missed you, mate. Tilly goes through middle pretty well. He does, Scotty, and that's the thing. Like, I've loved the way he's bent the line and the aggression he's put in. You know, when he come to the club, and I've said it on a few podcasts, he's got a mistake in him, and we've seen that start to develop. He made one the previous week. I thought the Kurt Mann pass to him this week for an early error was sort of going through the motions, like they just worked that play again, but it wasn't set up the same way. Kurt, I think he worked himself pretty hard and got worked over pretty hard when he made that run for that pass. Still he dropped it into contact. Still around a pretty good line. And then when he dropped that ball, when we finally got some field possession, really put us under the pump again in that second half. So, look, I think it's working well having him in the middle at the moment. He's impressing me a lot, attack and defense. But I do think I'd be just as happy to have Curran playing that third. Curran and, and Harry Hayes doing that role and Satilli out in that left edge. But also could come down to fitness too. They might be a bit worried about his defensive connection on the edge, having only just come to the Bulldogs and that sort of stuff, which is an issue as well that you've got to sort of weigh up. And obviously that might be the reason, it's easier for him to just get in the middle and do it there than it is to do his stuff on the edge when he's in a new sort of system, a new team. James, racism in the Shire. Oh, my God. That'd be a first, wouldn't it? They can go and get fucked. Perfect way to say it, Scotty. G'day, Lucas. Welcome back, my friend. Hopefully Sharks play shit and Dogs play their best game. Look, I agree. It'd be nice to have a really nice win. It's not too hard and they make it a bit easier for us. That would be lovely to go 4-0 up. But I just don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be a tough game. And it'll be won over an 80-minute performance. If we can generate better ruck speed through the middle and can defend like we did last week, I hope it's a win for us. And I'm predicting a 1-12 scoreline. 20-12 for the Bulldogs win. First try scorer, Preston. Oh, I'd love to see that get up, Timmy. I'd really love to see that get up. All right, I think it's time, guys. Before to talk about DCE, before I do talk about that, we've had some. How do I say it? Poor results in the juniors. The girls are undefeated. Lisa Fiola and Tasha Gala going great guns. Really setting they're doing a great job with those girls, and it's just great for the competition. It's going to be great for the WNRL. Doesn't mean we go in and we're going to win everything. We might. I don't think we will. There's a bit of a gap between there and the top, but and they've had a lot of easy stuff too. Probably too many easy wins, which you want to see that competition get really cutthroat, and have them playing tougher games and harder competition more and more often. But as far as the ladders go, Harold Matthews, we're right down near the bottom. We've had one win and 1 bye, 5 losses. We play the Sharks this week. We've had the 3 and the 3, so they go in as definite favourites. And and look, what's really concerning for the Bulldogs is that a lot of teams that have beaten us are down haven't had many wins either. So there's a bit of something we need to, the guys are trying hard. I know that. I'm hearing lots of good stuff about them. They are younger. Got more of the 16-year-olds in there. They copped a bit of a flogging last week. But they've got some really good players that are learning a lot of good lessons, and they're going to be a lot better next year in this competition. SG Ball, we're sitting in 8th spot, 4 wins, 1 draw, 2 losses. A lot of sort of high scoring games, and we come up against a side with the same record, both on 9 points. That's a really important win. You've got the Eels way out in top. And I think we beat the Eels. I think, no, they must have beaten us. Let's have a look at the draw. Yeah, the Eels beat us. What's that? Oh, that's New South Wales Cup. SG Ball. Oh, sorry, guys. We beat the Knights. Okay, we beat the Knights. 36-30. So there you go. Roosters beat the Tigers 36-22. Really good competition. Got a lot of up-and-comers in the side. And now the Jersey flag started. Some of those guys are going into flag. And looking at our New South, and this is sort of the point I want to make. You go to our New South Wales Cup side. We'll get the team list up. Taff, Sewer, Gabrielle, Cassius Tia, Jethro, Rennie-Karma, Drew Hutchison, Joey O'Neill. That would indicate to me, with the naming of this side, that Luke Smith will be the 18th man for the Bulldogs. Jack Underhill, Jake Turpin getting his start this year for the first time, bring a lot of experience to us. Lip Boy, Hot Boy, Luke playing back in the edge. There you go. With Louis Grossamy and Jack Todd, Ruben Moyle, Tom Amone, Zion Maeu, and AJ Jones. So players like Maeu, AJ Jones, Ruben Moyle, Grossamy, and Underhill, they just need to keep playing New South Wales Cup. It might mean that we don't make the finals, and people look at that side and go, oh, they're all ready for first grade and we should win New South Wales Cup. And even I've looked at it on paper and gone, that looks great. But it's about experience. Like this Newtown Jets side, Hiroti, Michael Gabrielle there, Eli Clark, who's been playing New South Wales Cup for 3 years now. Puru's been there for years. Jaden Beryl years. Jesse Colhoun for years. Billy Burns for years. Billy McGoulis for years. And Josh Cook, another former Bulldog, back at Newtown. Isn't that funny? So they got what was his bloody name? Khaled Rajab, Josh Cook, a whole heap of our players, Eli Clark and Michael Gabrielle. Are they all going to play first grade, though? Is that the thing? Will they end up as first graders? Will they? We don't know. Was it, a lot of people unhappy that players like that left our club? Oh, we let go of these players. Why? So Danny goes up against his brother Michael. Danny, the younger brother. The point is, we've got pretty much a side that the majority of them were playing Jersey flag last year, with a couple that are been on the fringe of first grade or played some NRL. But you got Taff, Drew Hutchison, Jake Turpin, and you could say maybe Tom Amone. 3 or 4 players that have got NRL experience, or lots of it. Then you got Lip Boys played about 7 or 8 games. That's it. Very young side. And then when you got a young New South Wales Cup side, that's going to translate to your Jersey flag side. means that the Jersey flag side's going to be quite young as well. Roy Tatupu. Will Afawalo, looks like he's gone to the other side. Hamish Wilson comes in. Sasaya Kafusi, Cooper Toy, Bronson Rubin, Joseph Taupa, Bud Smith, Patrick Young, Malachi Filippo, Logan Spinks, Jed Reardon, Bailey Myers. And there you go. That's a side that's definitely a competitive team, but they're struggling as well because they've got a lot of fresh players into that flag system. They're sending players out to play in Ron Massey as well. They're moving them around. They're trying to find the right positions for them. They're testing whether they're going to keep this kid progressing to the next year or whether he's someone they need to have a hard conversation with. You know, there's so much they're working out. And because of that, it can be very hard on these kids coming through. I think we've got a side in the... Is it the Laurie No, the Andrew Johns Cup. Oh, we must have lost on the weekend. These are the finals in the Andrew Johns and Laurie Daly Cups. So our North Coast Bulldogs made the semi, but they lost it, unfortunately, last week. So that's a bit sad, but well done for making the semis. And then you've got the Ron Massey Cup, which we still haven't won a game in. But they've got the team list there. And the guy, Oscar Bryant's one of the guys we bought. Who's a hooker. Otakulo's another hooker that we got. And Ragiri Warwick's playing halfback, which is interesting, I must say. Alan Holton's another one we bought, who is a hooker. So that's the point. We've got all these players. We're trying to give them an opportunity, giving them in different positions, and really testing them out in different conditions. Going back to their junior side, then coming up into the senior side. Sometimes going from Jersey flag to Ron Massey to the New South Wales Cup and back. Like it'd be hard on the players, be hard on their families, but that's what the Bulldogs club's got to do to progress. We get 4 mainstays back after the bye, which you heard here first, Scotty. You heard that here first. I've said for weeks, likely to see Carraz. Well, I thought Carraz was going to play. I got told he was going to play, but then a couple of days later, it was like his way off. So I said I expected him to come back probably when Burton and the like come back. Burton's still a chance to probably come earlier, but I reckon they will keep trying to develop this side and let him get fully fit and be back ready for that South Sydney game, where it looks like it could be Burton, Kikau, and Carraz coming back for South Sydney. G'day, Sayed Jamal. Welcome. If we can put enough pressure on Hines and make him buckle, we can win. Hines crumble equals Sharks morale goes down. Maybe, but I also think that they've been covering that for a while, don't you? Like they've won some games where, I don't mean to argue with people for argument's sake. I think a lot of the criticism on Nicho Hines is unwarranted. I do believe that, when he played Origin 1 for New South Wales, in a side where we only had 12 men for most of the game, but he was just timid in everything he did. Where I've watched him in games be anything from so far from timid. He's still only in his 3rd or 4th year as controlling the team as a number 7. In my opinion, he should be the 6. And he is a fucking good footballer. There's no doubt about it. Yet the whole commentary seems to be about like Hines holds all the cards. Hines is the Donald Trump in the war. He's got all the cards. I think you can target Hines and make him make errors, which is good for our team and that can make him be more predictable. But it's funny if he goes and simplifies things and just, works hard defense, runs his shape and runs around that back from the middle, the middle of the field out to the right. He's quick, gets on the outside, he's big, and it strips us for numbers, man. And we've got a situation where they've got a winger who's on the outside of our team, and they can do it at will when he does that. But when he gets the yips, as we were talking about, when you put the pressure on him or he puts it on himself or whatever else, or that seems to be what we're seeing. I think his team does all right. They've won most of their games the last 3 years, with or without his say. Yes, I think when the Sharks win, they seem to talk about Nico Hines way too much. But when they lose, they seem to talk about Nico Hines way too much. And they win a lot more than they lose. I just think Nico is obviously an important player, but not as big a deal as what everyone makes out. I in fact think that Braden Trindle he holds the key a little bit more. So I think Abraham mentioned that earlier, or whoever mentioned Braden Trindle earlier is more on the money. If you can rattle Braden, that's going to take us further, I think, because I think he's having more touches. A lot of Nico's touches are like for the sake of it too, for some reason. Like it's like he's just turning the ball inside to a player that comes on the inside to be in a position on the field. It's just all sort of, just all through the motion shit. But when he's running fast, running out the back, running hard, he asks questions. He's a fucking footballer, no doubt. But when he plays this timid shit, which he dished up in Origin, I think that's him in his own head. Anyway, I've talked about him way too long. Sorry about that. I'm predicting a Cameron McGuinness knock-on first run. Yes. Well, after Cameron's head knocked out Pawasa Masili in the 31st tackle of the game last year, where was there's a duty of care to the defender in that situation? I've got a good memory. A lot of people expecting us to get beaten convincingly. If we play our best and defend well, we will win 24-12. I love it, Mike. Jersey Flag ain't doing well. Yeah, and that's what I was talking about. They've got a number of players. The chopping and changing of the teams between Flegg, Massey, New South Wales Cup and SG Ball is making it already was making it hard last year, but they did have a lot more familiarity. And a lot of those kids that are now the mainstay of our New South Wales Cup side were all stars and all, how should I say, really, at the top of their game at that level. Whereas we've got a lot of players which are sort of only getting into that level now and still trying to work out what's the best combinations, that sort of thing. It just comes to the fact that we're moving more players into our first grade squad. So going to our first grade squad again, it's, you look at this side, Blake Wilson was playing reserve grade when he come through. Bailey Hayward, another one. Saluka Fafita, another one from New South Wales Cup. Harry Hayes, another one. Curtis Morin, another one. And then you got all these ones on the bench. So we're getting more mainstay players from our juniors and from that grade and that level into becoming regular first graders. And when you do that, you got to migrate everyone up, and that can weaken you. And as I said last week, we were beaten by a Parramatta side that sort of looked as strong on paper as some of our reserve grade sides have looked over the previous 8 years, where you've looked at those sides and lined them up against their competition and actually thought they underperformed. Like, those teams we had should have won those comps. I think that we made the grand final, lost to Penrith in one of the years, and maybe won a championship in 2019 or something. But the point I'm making is Parramatta are sort of at that level now where they've got their New South Wales Cup team is stacked with up-and-coming players on the verge of first grade, but also a lot of players which have played heaps of first grade but have had to go into the reserve grade side. They're no longer considered to be first choice in their side, so they're back in reserves. And that, while it looks good for reserve grade, it means your club's not going so well. The good clubs that are doing really well, a lot of the times have a bunch of young kids, and whilst they cop a few losses early, once they get used to it and get used to playing with the men and the mainstays of the reserve grade side, and get used to it week in, week out, they start to improve, and you'll find a lot of those sides the following year are really, really hard to beat. If they haven't already had some of them players progress into their top grade already, which also happens. You look at the Canberra reserve grade side and the amount of players that are now playing first grade regularly, how they were all there coming through. Like, they've been developing them for ages. Media said this will be the closest comp in history. Yeah, I think it's been the closest comp nearly every year, except for the few at the top. It's still a close comp. At the start of the year, 4 sides haven't won a match. That's a long tail. Usually you've got maximum 2 sides haven't won a match after 3 games. We've got 4 teams. And there's a couple of teams like that have won 1 or 2 games that I don't expect will win many more for the next few weeks. But I could be wrong. I'm writing teams off like people are writing our team off. Probably shouldn't do it. Pillaged our juniors. I don't think they've pillaged our juniors. I think we've just had to let some of our juniors go in order, because we don't have felt that they've got opportunities elsewhere to make more crust, or get a top 30 position. And where we feel we've got that sort of pathway covered. And what we'd rather do is bring up some more youngsters through and develop them and have them either, can really compete hard for a first grade spot, or compete well enough until we bring another youngster through and let them go. It's never an exact science, but when you sort of look into it and dig into it, obviously being an insomniac, I've got a lot of fucking time on my hands outside of doing my work. It becomes a thing you just see, and then you got these players which can float around between reserve grade and first grade at different clubs, and then find themselves in a system, and then all of a sudden I look at that Jack Goralski or whatever from who's at the Broncos on the edge. He's gone about 4 or 5 clubs and look good at most of them at certain points, but just hasn't been able to crack it. But he looks well and truly what the Broncos need for that position. As a bit of a workhorse and someone that'll do the job, I look at Zach Docker-Clay, no one had given him opportunity till Mick Potter did, and he did well for the Bulldogs. Now he's been, that player that's there to back up at the Roosters. For them, for some careers, it takes a lot longer than others. But as far as raping and pillaging our juniors, I think that's a good sign. Means you're becoming successful. And we've had a lot of good ones. We've invested so much money to buy them. And look, this has made it, I've said it a few times, but it's made it hard on the local junior base and the families and stuff like that. They're doing their best to grow those numbers to make them more competitive and bring in players from New Zealand, from Queensland, from all over Australia, from our pathways as well, and paying those kids money sometimes, you know. Like if you think paying a $500,000 fee for Carla Lawapu and then a $250,000 a year contract and top 30 spot doesn't ruffle feathers, you're kidding yourself. It ruffles. There's kids in that system who are like, oh, I'm going to be the next man up, and next minute this kid gets paid shitloads of money, and then all of a sudden they're pushed back to Ron Massey Cup or whatever, you know. They do this because in hindsight, whilst there's so much skill out there, and if you give that skill an opportunity, that's why I say if they make more teams, we'll see more players that are worthy of NRL. They just need an opportunity. But at the same time, when you really, you know, fill up your stocks with as much talent as you can and bring it in from the outside, that forces your locals to either sink or swim. And some of them don't just swim, they fly through the fucking water. You know, they go to other levels and they even exceed their own expectations. And that's what the club's looking to do. The club they talk about sharpen an iron with iron. Someone says it every week on this YouTube podcast. If I say it every few weeks, that's what they've got to do with these juniors. And they've done that. And they've invested so much money. They've spent money on players to bring them in, you know, sign them on contracts. And it can be hard for kids in the system already who are already there and all they want to do is play for Canterbury. And they're good, like they're talented and they're competing just as good as anyone else. To then have another kid in their way. And then in the first grade side goes and recruits another bloke on a 2-year contract who's played 150 games somewhere. And it's like, oh, it's even further away. And that player's not that good. You know, understand that would drive families nuts. And player managers would be like, fuck this. We need to find another pathway for you to play NRL. May not be in a blue or white jersey. But that's the game. And the club does these things for a bloody good reason. Sometimes I can't always articulate what that reason is. But as they fucking say, trust the process. It's not like it's life and death, although sometimes it feels like it. What happened to Tom Amone? Nothing's happened to Tom, mate. He's coming off the bench in reserve grade. He's getting his minutes. He's he looks good in small spurts. He does all right when he runs out of puff. You know, he's just a work in progress. And coming to the Bulldogs from the Super League, coming back to the NRL was never going to be easy. And you know, watch his games. If he's going to, I'm sure he'll play his part at some point. And playing your part doesn't always mean that you play first grade. It's you're there competing, and you're a pretty good fucking player. And other players are trying to outwork you, and you're trying to outwork them, and they win the race. Sometimes it's you know, people talked about we bought the bloke from Penrith who was really old and hardly played a game, and he come and he played a few reserve grade games and he looked way off the pace, and then he's left again. You know, he was there for half a season in our top 30. I forgot his name, but he played a part in our club and he was there for a reason. And if he's had a positive effect on other players there, with some of his experience or whatever it is, it's worth it. You know, we've got to look at the bigger picture. Sad to see Harold Matthews not winning. Yeah, it's sad, and it's more sad for them than anyone. It's more sad for them. Like they're getting up early. You got a bunch of kids trying to race each other to be the first one at training, to put himself in the spotlights. They're asking questions of the coaches. They're chewing Mark O'Mealy's ears off. You know, they want to be. You know, all they want to do is win that game. And drop a ball, miss a tackle, and all of a sudden the floodgates can open in a game. They could be winning a game, look like they're controlling the game, and just miss a few moments, and then whatever. It's not because they're poorly coached. Not to say they can't be improved. Like Mark O'Mealy hasn't coached too many teams. He's been helping coach. He's been working into that career. Maybe he's got some learnings he's going to have as well. Of course he is. But this side, as I said, they're on the younger side. So, you know, it's under 17s. They got a lot of kids who are 16. Makes a big difference. Makes a huge difference to see a kid from 16 to 17 a lot of the time. Massive growth period. A lot of injuries too. Kids at this age are so susceptible to injuries while they're still growing and getting used to that contact. It's honestly, there's a lot to it. There's so much to it. Sarah looks at the person's character, not necessarily the talent. I think they definitely look at a character. And it's not just them, it's the scouts that talk. You know, you got scouts who meet these kids earlier. You got, and then they tell the scout, they go and tell Gus, this is why we need this player. And Gus is like, yeah, get him in. I want to have a chat to him. Ciro gets him in, has a chat to him. They go and talk to the families. They, you know, and that's a hard thing because they all have that experience, right? Where you've just signed that little contract. You've trialed for Harold Matts. You've made the side. And they've signed you on a 1-year deal. Everything's going good, and then you bust your knee. And you hope you've done enough to be able to get another opportunity. For some kids, they don't. And it's not to say they didn't try or work as hard. Sometimes the spy goes, you know, the scout will be, and the club will like be real positive about the kid too. Oh, we think you're going to do this, this, and that, and we want you to sign with us. And then, you know, there's other clubs get interested. And then the club says, no, we want to keep you, and we want to keep you. And they keep you for another year. And then the next year when you think, I've played all right, I've done pretty well, I've hit me KPIs, and then the club doesn't offer you a contract. And now your player manager's running around looking for a deal. And you take what you can get. And there's a lot of that. There's heaps of that in the comp. This is the other side of the story. And this is why I always take this thing like, don't sit there and rubbish players. You know, I don't mind if you call Daly Cherry Evans a fuckwit. That's inter-club banter, right? But when they pull on our jersey, we're all in with them. We're there for them, their families. We want them to do well. Workhorses. The criticism on Hines is crazy. We wish people would just leave him alone. He's a great player. 100% JD. He's a very good player. I was very critical of his Origin performance, but I felt that was fair. I felt it was timid. But it didn't mean for the rest of the season, for every other thing, he should be in such a big spotlight. The media did that to JD. Ciro won't let young fellas he wants to go anywhere. What if I told you that he really wanted to keep Jake Averillo? Ciro will get a lot of what he wants under that system. But when it comes to the salary cap, he's sometimes he's got to make a sort of a choice or come to a sort of compromise is the word, because you can't keep them all. Timmy, it was good to see the Silktails finally get a win on the weekend. Yes, thanks for mentioning that, mate. And having a really good affiliation with them and with Billy Army as well. And we've also got young Rennie Karma in our side. It'd be good to see a couple of those lads force their way into a Bulldogs jersey one day, because the Fijians are still, I think, are one of the most athletic, instinctive people when it comes to playing football and stuff. Like watching the Fijian 7s and 9s through the years and that, phenomenal. Serious sorts of chaff from the wheat, sort of like bellyache. G'day, Tiam Ram. Unfortunately, I can't see us winning this game. Yeah, well, many of us can't. I sort of feel the same as I did when we were lining up against the Broncos. I expect the Broncos last year had their best side in the paddock. We're missing Burton, I think. Were we missing Burton? We were missing someone. Oh, was it Crichton? We're missing Crichton and a couple of forwards. We went out there and smashed them. But it was round 16, right? They'd been working on a lot of fucking stuff all season and they hadn't shown everything they had. Then you pull that out when you need it. Do we pull something out of the fire for the Sharks this week? I think we might. I think we'll need to. We won't play our full hand, but we'll let them know we've got a couple of pairs sitting in there and maybe something else. D said, thoughts on Crichton's goal kicking? Do you agree with the perception he may be a better goal kicker? Personally, I need to see more before conceding he is better than Burton. Well, because he missed 2 on the weekend, everyone automatically said that he's not as good as Burton. I think his style is, I think if his legs are right and he's doing it full time, I think his style is more suited to being more accurate. And the reason I say that is just more relaxed. And it's, it just seems a better style. Burton is a great striker of the footy. And he's missed a lot of goals that have gone really fucking close to going in. I look at Adam Dewey as a similar sort of goal kicker in the way he strikes the football. But Dewey's had a few more years, obviously more injuries. I don't know. As I say, D, it's subjective anyway. No one can ever prove that any other goal kicker would have kicked the goal that Matty Burton missed or Stephen Crichton missed or whoever missed the fucking goal. No one can prove that if they had someone else there that they would have scored it. You can't prove it. It's all subjective. The likelihood of them getting it might have been more. Sure. And they might have a better goal kicking percentage. But doesn't mean on that day, in those conditions, on that field at that minute, that they would have kicked the goal. So it's really an argument it gives us more confidence if we have more faith in the kicker, like we had faith in Hazem El Masri and all those sort of people. And Darryl Halligan, who kicked it, 74% or 72 or something. He kicks some important ones, though, and more from the sideline than a lot of other people could kick. Hazem, obviously, a next level up who learned off Darryl. A lot of great kickers from rugby union that came through. Matthew Ridge, Ivan Cleary. But look, I think Critter's got more of a laid-back style, which, I don't know, it just seems to flow the way he strikes the ball. But doesn't look as, while it's fluent, it doesn't look like he's getting the connection that Burton gets. Burton just smashes it. Like he's got a boot on him, that kid or bloke. Have some confidence, TM. Realistic. Yeah, look, I hope I'm wrong, but we really missed Burton's kicking, and against Sharks, it's going to be much more exposed compared to Eels. Well, maybe, mate. We don't know. We really don't know. Like, as I said, the likelihood is that the Sharks are going to be a tougher opposition based on the fact they've got so much connection, so much connectivity, so much experience playing together. They're so big across the park. They've got speed and skill, and they know what they are who they are as a football team. They know they've got a bunch of plays which teams struggle with that they put on every single week. And if they go out there and don't try too hard and don't make too many errors and throw too many stupid balls, they can beat sides and beat them well. And sometimes they can have fun with the ball and put a real big score in sides. But so can we, and so can any team. I think Burton's kicking really does help, obviously, but we can't rely on it. I think as a football team, we need to be having Matt Burton in a position where he can, like in round 1 against the Dragons, where he can just put casually put up a, kicking from halfway or 40 metres out and just put up a 20-metre long bomb and land it where he wants it and just play field position all day, compete for a couple. And then if the opposition does sort of pin you down a bit, he's a player can give you that extra 15, 20 metres you need to try and start winning back the battle. But we need to be in a position where, for the most part, we can get out of our own end. And I think with more variation in what we did, we will do that. But it was just all too predictable. And it didn't help that we just couldn't get a quick play of the ball away for a majority of the match. And sometimes when we did, I felt we went the wrong way a couple of times. So I don't know. Like, it was like, where we just got caught and made 4 meters off the second one because we should have went a short side maybe. Instead, just went back in field. We did that a lot and made no ground. Does that come down to the hooker and the half? Maybe. CJ's trying his best to keep them motivated. Yeah, and that's where you learn. CJ's the captain, isn't he? That's right. So he's just got to keep turning up, keep leading the way, keep talking, keep communicating, keep the boys' spirits up. They're playing more than just winning that game. They're all auditioning for their future. And the best way to do that is by doing their role together and doing what their coach said. The easy option might be to try and win it on their own somehow, and kids will do that. I'm going to have a crack. I'm going to play some football. Zach Lomax, I watched him on the weekend at halftime, and all the commentators applauded him for trying to have a crack and play some football, some ad-lib stuff. Or they watched Stevie Mortimer videos and he did a chip over the top and regathered and we scored, won the game when we were losing. And that changed the game, These kids watch that. And they try and cultivate that. We all try and do it growing up. Try and replicate those moments and force them to happen. But for the most part, it's a low percentage play. And even if they do the play and get away, this is another thing. Even if they do take that sort of individual play and individual moment, it'll get all the raps from people who are there to see it in these youngsters, right? And scouts and that'll love it. But if they know within the club that that's sort of not what they wanted them to do, it's a real hard thing to weigh up and talk about. But what I mean is sometimes you just got to keep playing a role and preparing yourself for that role that you're in so that when you climb up and you're ready for that next step in your career, you can do that role even better because you've practiced it so many times. And these guys, that's the hardest thing when you're a kid. And some of them don't get that level of talk about it. Like sometimes we're not going to tell them that. They need to work that out. They need to learn that. That they can't be selfish. They can't play for himself. But who knows, Some of the greatest players of our game, they played for themselves. They did they've come through, school systems, and it's different now when you're playing for schools where the most important thing of that school is the rugby league team. But when you're coming through the grades and whatever, and you're the best player in your team, and you're used to doing things on your own sometimes, it is hard to then get into a system where you're no longer the big fish and you're one of the school of fish, and you all got to work as a team. Fucking hell, I need to shut up. Timmy, the only way you learn is from failure to get the results you want long term. Harold Matts will be better for the experience and will improve next year. I'm confident of that. 100%, my friend. One thing I'm confident about is that whatever the result against the Sharks, I'll be proud of the team. D, that's fucking comment of the night so far. Well done. That is the confidence that is the thing that we can go in going, I know this team's not going to fucking let me down. Unfortunately, a lot of people felt let down last week, whereas I didn't. I argued with people about it. I really have. I've argued with people about it. It's one of those things, right? We've got a much more settled lineup. We've lost 2 players, but they made their changes pretty much from within the squad. They've brought in one player who played a lot last year, and DSF, who started the season due to an injury to Hughes, of course. There hasn't been huge chopping and changing. And every player that's in that side has impressed the entire fan base at some point. And that team has achieved things. Yet there's still fans who doubt their quality and doubt their ability. And it's human, because I still look at those 2 teams on paper and I have doubts. They doubted us last year. James Graham went over it in full. He's like, my old Dragon side, if I was playing for the Dragons today and looking at that team on paper, I'd be expecting I'm going to have a good day out there. And I'm going to look really, really good as I rustle through that Bulldogs little pack. And he goes, this has been happening week after week after week after week, yet still I hear fans, I hear commentators, I hear... and I'm hearing the other teams from what they've said are still, no one's got confidence in Serrato's small pack and little skinny bench to do what they've been doing and to keep doing it. But having that preseason and having this team not have so many changes for once, and knowing that, the majority of this team is going to be there next year as well, we've earned the right, just like your comment says here, to be confident that whatever the result, we're going to be proud of this team. We're going to do another segment, another type of thing, and I'm going to bring people on. It was your idea, D, where we go through different years of Bulldogs. Go to 2006, the 2012 season, and just go through the season and stuff. And go through games and memories. But there was just times there where we just earned that feeling of trust that our side would do really, really well. And that's starting to come again. You know that you will be proud of that team. The year we won the comp in 2004, there was a later season match against the Penrith Panthers. We led for the first, I think, 70 minutes. We had so much go against us, so little possession. But we scored I think maybe 16 or 20 points, but I think we had players in the sin bin. We had players injured. And we had no ball. And they ran over us late. But it was in that loss that I said, we're going to win the fucking comp. We're going to win the comp. The team that had won the premiership the year before in 2003, the Penrith Panthers, Ryan Girdler and all those blokes, they came over the top of us. We were out on our feet, absolutely spent after that match. But I knew out of that loss, we were going to win the comp. I had that confidence, and I was so proud of them. And there was Bulldogs fans were fucking pissed off we'd lost, and expect us to win every game. Remember when we lost to the Roosters earlier on in the season, 32-0 or something, or 34-0? We then repaid the favour and beat them 34-0 later in the season. But remember after that loss, like, the fans were just ropeable. Went to some of those games, you know what I mean? Coming home on the train and fucking hell. I was living up here, but went to a few games down there that year. It was a good year, winning the comp. Anyway, I'm getting off fucking track. But we've earned the right, and that club and that team has earned the right to know that if they go out there and work hard, get numbers into the tackle, and do their best, fight for every metre, fight for every penalty, that we're going to be proud of that side. Win, lose, or draw. They could lose by 30. As I said, we lost 25-6 round 2 last year. I was proud of the side. Lost 24-8 against the 26-8 against the Eels a week before. Proud of the side. Coming up against the Titans, I was like, worried about them, but I think we can beat them and beat them well. Beat them 30-0. Should have beat Souths, I think, the following week. Then come out and smash the Roosters. And so the season began. Nothing but proud of that performance on the weekend. And I'm expecting to be proud of them again on Saturday night. It's okay to drop a game here and there as long as there's a reason. If we have full strength and lose by 40, that's way more worrying. Again, it's all context. I don't always rap Wayne Bennett as much as everybody else does. His South side lost 2 games by 50 points in 2021, and they were one Stephen Crichton intercept away from maybe causing an upset in the grand final. And no team's ever won a grand final that's conceded 50 points in a season. And not many teams have made a grand final that have conceded that much. It all comes down to context. Ricky's Raiders on the weekend, 40-12. Ricky drives me nuts half the time, but I actually agreed with him. I felt that first 20 minutes, they defended their ass off. And Atkins was just going fucking mental. And I was surprised that he called a no try against, in Raiders' favour earlier in that game. And then they go down and nearly score and they have that disallowed on them. And then next minute, Horsburgh's bloody sent off in the sin bin. And they get 2 or 3 tries from kicks and a couple from dummy half. Like, it's embarrassing to lose big on the scoreboard, yes. But I sometimes feel that you can watch it. That's just an outcome based on many circumstances and a few moments. A game can be really, really close, but end up with a big margin sometimes. Anyway, it's easy just to say, yeah, whatever you said, but I've looked deeper than that, man. And that's why I talk about it. That's why I do this podcast, is to talk about these things. Yeah, I think he is. I think he's from Papua New Guinea. I'm pretty sure. We're missing Critter against the Broncos. That's right. We're missing Critter, but Broncos are seriously internal issues. Burt is a key piece. It's a kicking game. He's been our key piece, which was why people kept saying he was a centre. And I'm like, you're a fucking idiot if you're saying he's a centre. In the nicest, respectable possible way, you can have a different opinion. That's all right. But you want our centre doing the kicking, go for it. Hopefully there's a plan. There needs to be a plan. Get in the halves head and win. Simples. There you go, Dave. Francis Kane, welcome, Francis. Sharks are going to be hard, but every team is beatable. If dogs show up on the day, they can get the job done. And that's the great thing about our comp. No, Dave, let's forget about stuff like that and just play footy. Let's go through the 1999 season. We need to lock in Cameron for life. We lost to the Roosters 35-0, then we beat them 40-12. Thank you, Michael. I'm 100% confident win, lose, draw, and proud of the team regardless of the result against the Sharks. All right, guys. I'm going to spend 2 minutes on DCE. And then we're going to let this thing go for the night. It's not beyond what the Bulldogs have done in the past. Ricky Stewart mentored Sherwin after being Canberra Raiders, one team player, came with Bradley Clyde. Added those, a lot to do with our salary cap issues too as well. Add those two players onto a side that went on a huge run in 1998. We should have won a comp that year. They were bought with the purpose of winning a comp, but also to coach, mentor, and develop because they knew what they had in Ricky Stewart. Brett Kamali, same sort of thing, and he's gone down the same line. He's gone down coaching. He's a mentor. He's a coach. And Daly Cherry Evans has given every indication that he is going to be some sort of mentor or coach after he finishes playing football. So it all lines up as a typical type of Bulldog signing at a certain time of us emerging from those past rebuilds have come after 1 or 2 years of struggling, after some success, right? And then we start to emerge and build. Make an unexpected grand final after being 16-0 down with 10 minutes to go. We then go and, buy these players. And nearly win a comp with them. It's not beyond what we would do. Do I think we should do it? No, I don't. Never been a big fan of DCE. I don't know why. If he pulls on a blue and white jersey, though, I'll be supporting him like he's Terry Lamb. Sorry, that's how I am. I'm a club person. I go for the Bulldogs, and whoever wears that jersey. There's certain players I don't want to come, though. I'd prefer if they didn't come. But if they come, that's it. End of story. We change the narrative. Sorry. And we can do it. Yeah, I'd love to get Darren Britt on, mate. What a champion. That was Super League times. We got Bradley Clyde too. We 100% did. So I'm going to end this in about 30 seconds, guys. DCE, I think it would be... I think Toby Sexton can become one of the premier halves in the comp. I would trust the club's ideas on that ahead of my own. And if the club believes that he has that ability, he will be signed. It could also be it's totally within the realms of possibility, though, that Toby's definitely going to find a job as a halfback. Put it that way. Hopefully it's with the Dogs, because I think it just will be better for us as a fan base and a club and stability and all that sort of stuff. The club's setting itself, taking a huge risk, I believe, a bigger risk, to bring in a player that's potentially about to retire in a couple of years, who's not that well liked by the fan base. But look, I think 60 to 70% would be happy with it and be happy for the club to do it. Anyway, guys, I should get Terry. Love that, D. I'm going, guys. Thank you so much. We will speak soon. Go the Dogs. We'll maybe do a preview before. I probably will because I'm loving this shit. Go the Dogs.